So we are now going to proceed with cover removal of the 8 series machine. Okay, and this is important to go through thoroughly because we need to clean the whole machine and then go ahead and oil it. Alright, so what we need is a T20 driver. And a 00 or a small driver for removing the door on the front of the machine. This needs to come off, and the best way to approach this is to push over on the C-clip of the pin on the right hand side of the door, and then that side will come off and we can gently remove this, keeping in mind these flag sensors are engaging a small printed circuit board on the left hand side, pulling off to the right to remove that cover. Okay, then we need a T20 driver. So we will take our T20, and there is one T20 screw that has a metal ring around it on the right hand side of the top cover, and then 2 T20 screws on the top cover. And you can tell where these go because they have a washer underneath them and a polished head or a chromed out head. So we know these are the screws that hold the top cover on. Okay, then I can grab on to the pin on the right hand side, you can see, and lift, which makes this whole cover come off. And I like to clean the underside of the cover as I go. Okay. Now, we're going to go ahead and place this on our cover shelf on the bottom of the bench that we have set aside and apply our static wristband, so we don't discharge static into the machine. Okay. Now there are 2 T20s on the top of the machine with black washers underneath them. These are different than the other screws that were on top, holding the top cover on. So we'll remove these. And then we have a long bolt in the back of the machine head. You'll see here. And we'll remove that, putting that bolt into our tray. Okay. Now, we're going to take a T15 and remove the sewing tray screws, the pins that hold the sewing table on either side of the free arm cover. Remember, this is a T15. Then we'll remove the glamour cap on the base plate of the machine. To access the T20, we're doing a T20 screw, Torx 20, out of the bottom of the free arm cover. It will drop out of that hole. Now keep in mind that the machine free arm cover is held in place with several rubber grommets or rubber stoppers on the inside to the main body of the machine. We're going to remove the shield for the door sensor. There's a T20 on the front that's a chromed polish T20, and that door will come off. Okay, Now we can gently pull back on the cover, slowly applying force, getting the cover to release, keeping in mind we have to look out for the grommets. Okay. And you'll see that these are actually right here on the free arm. This one just fell off. You can't lose these. And they generally go right here. Is one here. I like to put them in my magnet tray, and I will replace them when we put that cover back on. Okay, we're going to disassemble the needle plate, take off the presser foot for cleaning. Now we can dismantle the front cover, and you'll see what we're going to do is lift up and towards us. But first, we're going to loosen this screw right here on the machine. We're not going to take it out, we're just loosening it because it just holds the cover in place. Okay, so we've loosened that, and now the front cover will come off with ease. And I have to lift up, keep in mind, because our tensioner up here, the tension spring, will want to block the cover from coming off. We're going to very carefully and gently unplug our lead cables from the main circuit board. The small lead cable actually can be taken out by gently opening the black inlet with your fingernail, and then the other lead cable will gently be pulled off as well. Again, make sure your cover shelf is plenty open to set your covers aside. To take off the back cover of the machine for cleaning, we're going to grip the right hand side and the left hand side, and these will actually fold out when you pull out on them. Lift your handle up and it will come off. You will see that this is designed to be flexible and pliable so that you can apply force on either side to release the back cover. Okay? And now we have the machine stripped, and we can go through a cleaning regimen. Turn the hand wheel slowly while you clean the machine. And inspect the machine for thread lock. In the take-up lever and in the cutter mechanism. We want to look for any sort of thread lock. Always blow air through the main motor of the machine, and you will see that carbon will usually fly out. Removing carbon from the motor is important for the health of the motor and the longevity of it. Okay. So now we'll move forward with oiling the machine. Ensure that you're using Velocite 6 oil. Mobile Velocite 6 is a good option. As long as it is a Velocite 6 spindle oil, that's what Bernina recommends for this machine. There are two main bushings on the upper shaft where you need to drop oil on either side of the bushing. And you can access these from the top of the machine. And then oil through your take-up crank. So all of those bushings receive oil. And again, look for thread lock or thread that's wrapped around the take-up crank. This one does not have thread wrapped around it, that needs to be removed. Drop oil on the needle bar and also clean the needle bar from thread that may possibly be there from your sew out. Clean that. And oil through the needle bar. Okay. So we've oiled through the sewing head. Now we're going to service the cam for the thread cutter and also unlocking the hook. This cam rides in a groove that requires a little bit of oil, so I dropped some oil on that. I can see the knife coming out, and we will oil the half moon or the half-shaped gear here, and then the upper part of the knife that's metal that slides on metal to service the knife on the top of the machine. Then we'll rotate the gear in the opposite direction to engage the hook to allow that to come out. And rotating the hand wheel backwards will allow us to oil into the hook race, oiling that properly. Be aware of the needle position, where it turns, so that your needle doesn't strike the hook when you manually engage the hook and lock it back into position. Now we're going to remove the T20 screw on the black gearbox for the hook drive. To inspect the gears. Wow, these gears are dirty. So this is why we inspect this, because the gears can build up quite a bit of debris. So I like to take a brush and clean the teeth of the gears out of the debris. This can help avoid timing issues, damaged gears, and other long-term maintenance issues on the machine. So always pull the gear cover to check this main drive gear and then clean it out. Using a brush, you can brush back on the teeth while you rotate the hook to thoroughly clean out all of the debris from the teeth of the gears. Okay. Then you'll have to clean the base plate of the machine from the grease and the debris that was there. And we'll address this when we put the covers back on and polish the machine as well. Okay. We'll replace the gear cover. Now, something to note is that Bernina does not necessarily recommend to oil this gear. It is an oilless gear, or a greaseless gear, I should say. But we still want to clear debris from the gear to keep it healthy. We're going to replace the T20 screw. And proceed with oiling the bushing on left and right sides, just to the left of the hook, and then the bushing just to the right of the hook. You can see there's a main bushing there. Okay. And then just behind the main circuit board, we have another bushing that we can access for oiling. And we want to oil that on the side that we can reach. Then we want to look at the back side of the machine. We can see that there's some small linkage with moving parts for the sideways feed motion stepper motor down here. That we'll drop a little bit of oil on those parts. The linkage for the feed system. And then on the upper part of the machine we have linkage for the integrated upper feed system. And we will oil through those bushings. So they are lubricated as well. As these are important moving parts as well. Okay, so now the machine's been oiled. We're ready to replace our back cover. So we will take this back cover and flexing it back into place, we will reattach it. The bottom part of this cover actually fits into the base plate very nicely. And then the front cover needs to be plugged back in. So we will plug in our ribbon cables, gently pressing them into place. And sometimes you have to use two hands. The small ribbon cable above the smaller blue cable needs to have the female plug-in on the main board disengaged, so you can plug it in and then re-engage that. The large main communication cable Ribbon cable then needs to be plugged in, applying force on either side, but make sure it's lined up to the main circuit board before you apply force. Then affix the cover back into place. You'll see that it is a tight fit and that the cover will fix into place. Much like the other one, there's actually two clips on the inside of the throat that clip into place. And now we are ready to start replacing screws. I like to start out with tightening down the screw on the back side that we loosened here for that front cover. Then the two T20 screws with black washers will hold the front cover into place. Don't get them mixed up with the other T20s that held the top cover in place. Make sure that they're about in the center position of those cover mountings. You can offset them, and that can affect your upper tensioner and how it works when the thread delivers into it. Okay? So now we'll go ahead and put in our bolt in the back of the machine that holds the back cover in. Our long bolt, that is. Put that into place. And I also like to ensure that the covers are together in the inside by pulling on them. Okay. Now we'll attach our top cover. And you'll see that it fits tightly, and there's actually several pins along the front cover and back cover that line it up into place. And we have several T20s with the silver washers that go into the top to hold the top cover down. So we'll put those into place. Ensuring that they are tight, but do not over tighten them. Once they become tight, only a quarter turn of your driver is required. And then replace the T20 screw into the end of the top cover. And this will help pull that cover into place as well. Now we're going to replace our free arm cover. Remember, these two black bumpers need to be in place on the metal part of the free arm. We'll slide that into place gently, and you'll hear it pop into place. And these are also tight fitting. Using the T15 driver, we'll go ahead and replace the pins for the sewing table that also hold the free arm cover on. Again, not over tightening them, but getting them tight and then making a slight turn by hand. Okay. Now we will replace our screw on the free arm cover on the bottom. And then the glamour cap that goes on the surface of the base plate to cover that screw up. Okay, we're going to replace the shield for the door sensor. And it gets a silver T20 screw. Sure, you differentiate between the silver and non-silver screws, the chrome ones and non-chrome. The chrome screws are ones that face the consumer when they use the machine. Now, we're going to replace our bobbin door. Carefully, we will put the door in place where the flag sensor will ride with the door in the down position, and then we can ride the pin back into place. See how we didn't even need to use a tool for that? Just went right on. Okay. Now I'm going to replace my needle plate. Always put the needle plate on from the left side to the right side when putting it back down, or you can break the pins under them. Replacing the bench foot. However, this is not needed. This person didn't bring their foot in, and that's my bench foot. Okay. We're going to go ahead and replace our cover door on top. And then we will turn the machine on to ensure that all leads have been plugged in properly. This is important. Because we've unplugged leads and plugged it back in, we still need to ensure, even if I'm sure that I plugged them in all the way, the machine is properly hooked back up to its computer. And we will wait for it to boot up. And we will listen for the stepper motors to calibrate when it boots up. The stepper motors in the machine should all calibrate when the white screen comes up. Then the lights should turn on. This is encouraging. Okay, one more time. We will stitch a test stitch on the machine to ensure that everything is functioning as it should after cover replacement. so one thing I noticed is that my thread caught on the cover when I went to thread it, so gently I pulled them apart. And I need to see if there's a thread delivery issue with the machine before the customer gets it back. That's why testing is so important. And I'm testing this machine without the standard spool tree on the 8 series. It is important to do that because it can create thread delivery issues. When you run the needle threader. However, in this scenario, I don't have an extra one at my bench, so I'm using an independent spool stand. We're going to go ahead and run a reverse cycle mending stitch, or the honeycomb stitch. And this ensures that the reverse cycle is operating, the feed stepper motor is operating, the thread cutter is working, and the stitch is looking good. We're ready to clean the machine and do paperwork. When cleaning a machine like this, we want to ensure, we can take our static wristband off now, that we are not spraying directly onto the machine. What we're doing is spraying onto our rag and then wiping down the machine. Paying attention to the areas especially where the consumer faces and where we have debris or fingerprints from cover removal. This is important. First, I'm going to clean with either Simple Green or Windex to get markings off. And to get fingerprints off. Taking care to clean the free arm. And to clean underneath the free arm. Where the base plate is. Oddly enough, this machine has Sharpie marks or pen marks on the inside of the throat. Maybe the customer was using a marker for something. On the top of the sewing head on the bottom. So, I'm going to take some isopropyl alcohol and put that onto my rag to clean those from the cover. Not sure why they're there. And they are not coming off. It's with a permanent marker. Interesting. After cleaning the machine and wiping it off, we're going to polish it using a plastic-based polish. So we're going to take a new rag and take our, I like Plexus, it's a good polish for plastic, and spray directly onto the rag. And then wipe the machine down with the polish. We can really get that black to shine around the screen. And then of course polish the screen very lightly, only enough to shine it, and remove any fingerprints that may be on the screen. And then wipe the free arm cover and ensure there's no fingerprints on the back of the machine from cover removal. We don't want any hidden black fingerprints. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and do our paperwork and ensure that we use a larger cover, clear cover, to cover the machine. And we will put our sample with the paperwork with the machine as a standard service.